What if I told you that the most dangerous thing happening right now isn't war, politics, or even AI, but the silent death of thinking itself? Every day, we're drowning in information, but starving for truth. And what's replacing it is something philosophers now call collective stupidity. In this video, we'll uncover how it's happening, who benefits from it, and most importantly, how to break free. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing people around you have stopped questioning the world. The noise of life has grown deafening, the pace relentless, and the flood of information endless. What was once the mind's greatest strength, its ability to question, analyze, and grow, has dulled into quiet acceptance. Picture a society where critical thought disappears, where reasoning, reflection, and doubt are replaced by quick reactions, shallow opinions, and echo chambers of agreement. In this video, we'll explore the unsettling reality behind the decline of critical thinking and the dangerous rise of what some philosophers call collective stupidity, a condition where masses accept shallow narratives and surrender intellectual independence without even noticing. And at the end of this journey, we'll face the most urgent truth of all, one that could determine whether we reclaim our minds or lose them entirely to a system designed to keep us comfortably asleep. The first truth: thinking is hard, and in our age, it's quietly discouraged. Modern life doesn't reward reflection. It rewards speed, emotional reaction, and conformity. This is not accidental. Algorithms feed you what you already want to hear. Education systems reward memorization over discovery. Society quietly conditions us away from independent thought. Decades ago, philosopher Noam Chomsky warned about this through his analysis of media and propaganda. He described the manufacturing of consent, how systems of power rely on training people to agree without understanding. When citizens consume passively, question less, and accept more, they become easier to manage and far easier to mislead. Critical thinking, once a mark of an educated mind, is now treated as inconvenient. It slows debates. It disrupts outrage. It questions ideologies. In a world obsessed with being right, even asking, "But is this true?" has become an act of rebellion. Second, the overload problem. How did we arrive here? One major reason is information overload. Neuroscientist Daniel Levitin points out that the average person now processes 5 times more information each day than just a few decades ago. Notifications, breaking news, advertisements, opinions, they bombard us every waking moment. Our brains were never designed for such constant input. When overwhelmed, the mind shortcuts. It leans on biases, groupthink, and familiar cues instead of careful reasoning. We look to others, friends, influencers, authorities, for signals on what to think. This is social proof, a natural survival tool, but it can be exploited. A post with thousands of likes feels true, not because we verified it, but because it looks true. And this is how collective stupidity spreads. Not because people are foolish, but because we're conditioned to follow cues instead of thinking for ourselves. The third warning sign is the death of deep reading. Neuroscientist Marianne Wolf explains how our brains are being rewired by screens. We skim, we scroll, we click away. Sustained focus, the kind needed for analysis and reflection, is fading. And without focus, critical thought collapses. Ask yourself, when was the last time you read something challenging without checking your phone? When was the last time you paused after hearing a controversial idea just to think? These small habits of patience are disappearing. And as Carl Sagan once warned, we now live in a society exquisitely dependent on science and technology, in which hardly anyone knows anything about science and technology. His fear wasn't just ignorance, it was the loss of the ability to think critically about the very systems we depend on. The fourth, emotional barrier. But the decline of critical thinking isn't just technological or educational, it's emotional. Thinking critically is uncomfortable. It forces us to admit we might be wrong. It threatens our identities, our egos, even our sense of belonging. In a culture that values certainty over humility, this discomfort feels dangerous, and so we retreat into safe spaces, tribes, slogans, and ideologies. We repeat instead of reason. We defend instead of dialogue. The Socratic method, which fueled philosophy for centuries, is replaced by outrage, memes, and cancel culture. The fifth role of education and institutions. To see the roots of this problem, we must look at the systems shaping our thinking. John Taylor Gatto, an award-winning teacher and critic of modern schooling, argued that the purpose of compulsory education was never to nurture independent thinkers, but to produce obedient workers. In his view, schools were designed during the industrial era to prepare students for predictable, compliant roles. From childhood, we are rewarded for memorizing answers, not for asking better questions. Conformity is praised, curiosity is labeled a distraction. Over time, the unspoken message becomes clear. Follow the rules, don't rock the boat. This continues into adult life, in offices, media, even friendships. Speaking unpopular truths risks social rejection, and so silence grows. But silence over time becomes complicity. Erich Fromm described this in Escape from Freedom, noting that many people willingly surrender their freedom of thought because real freedom comes with responsibility, and responsibility can be terrifying. The seventh, social media effect. Social media has taken this to a new level. Platforms that once promised connection now thrive on outrage, division, and manipulation. Every algorithm is built to keep you scrolling, reacting, and consuming, not thinking. You are nudged towards content that confirms your beliefs, encouraged to react instantly, emotionally, and often angrily. Philosopher Marshall McLuhan predicted this decades ago, warning that the medium is the message. The tools we use to consume information shape how we think. Today's platforms reward speed, outrage, and certainty, not depth, patience, or doubt. And in the age of misinformation, truth itself competes with virality. Ideas are judged not by evidence, but by popularity, a dangerous form of cognitive tyranny. Eighth, the psychological behind it. To understand the rise of collective stupidity, we need to explore the mind itself. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow shows how our brains operate in two modes: fast and instinctive, or slow and deliberate. Fast thinking is emotional, automatic, and energy-saving. Slow thinking is analytical, rational, but requires effort. In our high-speed world, most people stay in fast mode. Politicians, marketers, and media exploit this, using emotional triggers to bypass reason. Repetition and familiarity replace truth. Once a belief feels right, we defend it, even against evidence. This is confirmation bias, the trap of seeking only information that supports what we already believe. It is human nature, but left unchecked, it is intellectual quicksand. Another danger is groupthink. Irving Janis showed that even intelligent groups make disastrous decisions when dissent is silenced for the sake of harmony. Throughout history, progress has come from those willing to stand apart. Galileo, Darwin, Nietzsche, Martin Luther King, who were all ridiculed or attacked for thinking differently. The ninth, the courage to think. Thinking critically in today's society is an act of quiet rebellion. It risks misunderstanding, exclusion, even hostility, but it brings clarity, integrity, and the power of owning your own beliefs. Many of us feel anxious or unfulfilled despite living in an age of endless information. Why? Because we've outsourced our thinking to media, to trends, to public opinion. We've abandoned inner dialogue, the ability to sit with a question and explore it deeply. No algorithm can think for you. No trending hashtag can replace your inner compass. The 11th, the path forward. So what can we do? Start with awareness. Notice when you're reacting instead of reasoning. Ask, what's influencing my opinion right now? Am I open to being wrong? Practice dialectical thinking, holding two opposing ideas in tension and exploring both. This is not weakness, it's intellectual strength. Socrates said, the only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. It wasn't humility, it was a lifelong invitation to keep asking. Critical thinking is a discipline. It requires reading books, not just headlines. It requires listening, not only to those you agree with, but especially to those you don't. It requires humility, to live with uncertainty and still seek truth. Critical thinking is not just an intellectual skill. It's a moral and even spiritual act. It's choosing truth over comfort, growth over certainty, freedom over approval. Once you begin thinking critically, you see the systems that shape you, the manipulation, the control. It can be overwhelming, even painful, but reality, however uncomfortable, is the only foundation for true freedom. Carl Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own